Roar. Hold on tight.
Batman speaking. Warning all of you to brace yourselves for big news.
The biggest.
Tell them, Robin.
Holy superlatives, Batman! It's really exciting. Soon, very soon.
Out of the ring in just a moment or two for more exciting fucking action.
King Kong Brody and Abdullah the Butcher. You can see why people in St. Louis everywhere got excited about seeing wrestling. And this match is certainly one people talked about for a long time. Certainly in Dupo, Illinois at the high school where they had over 2,200 people packed into that gym as Abdullah the Butcher locked up with Brody and pushes Brody into the corner. The referee, Lee Warren, trying to get a break, but if you know Abdullah the Butcher and you know King Kong Brody, well, you know it's not Lou Thesz against Pat O'Connor. But that's what makes wrestling great, because you have different styles and different ways to attack people. And there's one way: stand on the throat of Brody when you weigh about 400 pounds, as Abdullah the Butcher did. Abdullah the Butcher was a very controversial character. He wasn't in any one territory, any one town for a very long time, because really he was just hard to handle. King Kong Brody had a reputation like that sometimes too. But ironically, a lot of people thought that Brody would not get along with promoter Sam Muchnick in St. Louis, and it was just the opposite. They became very good friends. If you asked Brody who were the three promoters that he respected the most in the wrestling world, I'm sure he would have told you. The Giant Baba in Tokyo, Japan, Paul Bosch in Houston, and Sam Muchnick in St. Louis, because he knew if they gave each other their word, if they shook hands on it, that's the way it was going to be. No shaking hands here as Brody and Abdullah the Butcher. Brody with a cut opened up on his forehead already from Abdullah the Butcher, and watch Butcher like a shark, scenting blood, smelling it, going after the wound, going after the injury on Brody's head. Abdullah the Butcher going after his long-avowed enemy, and King Kong Brody wanting to finish it once and for all. Dupo, Illinois, the site, as King Kong Brody finds himself almost fighting for his life against Abdullah the Butcher as Abdullah starts pounding on the head of King Kong Brody. Abdullah never was shy about using anything he'd find. He's picked up forks, he's picked up bottles, he's picked up all sorts of foreign objects. He'd do anything he could. To him, wrestling was a war. And his most exciting matches were against people like King Kong Brody, who said, well, I can wrestle. If I have to, I can throw drop kicks. I can do hammerlocks. But if you want a war, I'll give you a war. Right now, though, the war was not going in the way that King Kong Brody wanted it to go. Abdullah pulling back on the head of Brody, turning Brody into that corner. Abdullah putting the pressure on. Headbutt by Abdullah the Butcher. Brody staggered, bleeding. Referee Lee Warren keeping an eye on things, but he's probably knowing best right now is just let them slug it out. Find out who's the toughest, who's the meanest, who's going to last the longest. Brody making a comeback. He hits the ropes. And a big boot right to the top of Abdullah the Butcher's head. Abdullah the Butcher taking another kick, another boot from King Kong Brody. Another kick right to the jaw. Abdullah the Butcher hanging onto those ropes. In deep trouble now. And you can see that a cut has been opened up on the head of Abdullah the Butcher. Abdullah bleeding as Brody pounds on Abdullah the Butcher. Brody hitting the ropes again, wanting every bit of extra energy he can get for a kick up against the ear of Abdullah the Butcher. Herb Simmons was probably wondering right there, boy, what did I get myself in for with a main event like this? Abdullah the Butcher and King Kong Brody. But I'm sure that Herb Simmons at that point was like every other fan in that building. He was standing in rapt attention, watching every move these two giants of wrestling were doing. Brody, Abdullah trying to destroy each other. Brody with a chop to the head of Abdullah. Brody on the offensive now. Abdullah hanging onto the ropes, trying to keep his feet as Brody pounds on the head, pounds on the lacerated head of Abdullah the Butcher. The blood spilling out of the forehead, down the chest, down the arms of Abdullah the Butcher. Abdullah in deep trouble now. He had the offensive early, but now King Kong Brody lashing out with all his might, with all his fury, and Abdullah the Butcher in deep, deep trouble. Can Brody put him down? Can Brody get his shoulders on the mat? Can Brody make him say that he'll quit? Well, it's going to be tough. And Brody knows that even going to biting King Kong Brody. Lee Warren, the referee, who's been in so many big matches by this point in his career, knowing that this might have been his toughest challenge, trying to keep some sort of order between Abdullah the Butcher and King Kong Brody. Abdullah fighting back. A chop to the head. Remember, Brody was already cut. Abdullah pitching Brody through the ropes outside the ring. Remember, this is a high school gym, and like all high schools, they're pretty protective of their floors, so the crowd was all up in the bleachers, and it gave Brody and Abdullah room to roam. Maybe that wasn't such a good thing. They're fighting outside the ring now, looking for the furniture they can use on each other, trying to batter each other into destruction. Brody picks up the ring bell and slams it into the head of Abdullah the Butcher. Abdullah reeling after taking the bell to the head, but then he slams Brody's head into a table. Brody grabs a chair. Look out. Abdullah the Butcher catching the chair right across the forehead. Brody going after Abdullah with the chair again, trying to drive it into the throat of Abdullah the Butcher, but the Butcher, he's like a tank. You can't destroy him. Down goes referee Lee Warren. His attempt to keep some order quickly going by the wayside. Headbutt by Abdullah, then a chop again to referee Lee Warren, who by now is on the floor and calling for help, realizing there is no way one man can keep these two apart. See Lee Warren asking for help from the dressing room, hoping the other wrestlers on the undercard will come out and give him a hand, trying to break up Brody and Abdullah. Look at the packed crowd there behind Brody and Abdullah. Here comes one wrestler. Abdullah grabs him. Brody, Abdullah, they couldn't care less who's in between them. They have sights for only one thing, and that is kicking the tar out of each other. Anybody that gets in the way, they're going to be in trouble. Brody and Abdullah. Here comes Gary Jackson. Night Train Gary Jackson trying to break it up. Brody, who liked Jackson, with a kick to Jackson's chest, knocking him down. He probably didn't even know it was Gary Jackson. Another guy grabs Brody. Brody grabs him by the head, slams him into the concrete wall, not the pad. Brody's so angry, so out of control, he slammed him into the concrete wall. There's Brody with a water cooler going after Abdullah the Butcher. No way to break it up. Abdullah the Butcher. King Kong Brody, one of the greatest feuds in wrestling history. Brody, Abdullah, and they were in St. Louis like so many other stars.
This is the tattooed madman PsYcHo Mike. And if you don't want to get locked in a mental ward with me, you'll click like and hit subscribe now.
I've seen your stupid videos. Actually, I'm lying. I haven't seen your stupid videos. I've heard about your stupid videos. From me to you, go fuck yourself.
Here. There was no one bigger when it mattered less. The man with the perfect face for radio. The tattooed madman PsYcHo, Mike.
Beta here. Check it out. You're listening to PsYcHo Mike's Masterz of Mayhem Underground Radio. Broadcasting live, online, and worldwide from Cleveland, Ohio. That guy plays anything and everything. And he likes the rest of my family. Even Meg? So he can't be all bad. I bring to you the man with the perfect face for radio. The part-time crazy, 100% PsYcHo, the tattooed madman, PsYcHo Mike.